Our song with the song, This is the Day. We hope you could all join in and rise up if you feel it. Thank you.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that with us. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
I am. There we go. Good morning, everyone. So glad to have you here at the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Sue Witter. I'm one of the practitioners, and I think maybe officially a ministerial intern as well. Maybe. Yeah. Bad. You'd have to know that's a long story that I won't bother to tell you. So welcome. We're glad you're here. And if you notice, we are brand new today. We are brand new, so it's still a little, get stoned from the glue smell. So try not to, leave here and worry about that too much. But first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who helped take apart and then put back together the sanctuary. So if you were a part of the fix up, clean up, do everything that we needed to do to make this happen, please stand up so we can all send you some love. That was a lot of work. There was a lot of work to get this done. So thank you, because it's a two-part process. It wasn't even like just in and out in one day. It was a lot of work. So thank you, everyone. We have one real quick announcement. So next week is Mother's Day. And that's today, that day. If you want to wear a hat in honor of Mother's Day, please feel free to do so. I can promise you I probably won't. It's not necessarily a good look for me. But if it's a good look for you, please, like Felicia, Felicia looks good in everything she puts on. Absolutely everything. So she could wear a hat easily, I know that. But if you'd like to do that, please join us for some fun. And one more time, we're just reminding everyone that Cheryl has officially retired. And so Kay is waving back there. Kay, who's one of our practitioners, Dr. Kay Fontana, yay.
Run up here real quick.
Come say hello.
Don't knock Pat down. Or Nancy.
So we are so fortunate. I can't even tell you how fortunate we are that Kay has opted in and is now managing the office on our behalf. And so she is the one who will now be the knower of all things.
Well, not yet, but
Oh, yeah, I think so. And with a new haircut that I haven't seen.
yeah,
That's because I've been gone for so long. I've been gone for 2 whole weeks. That feels like forever for me. Anyway, so awesome, Kay. Thank you so much. We are so glad to have kind of an uninterrupted continuity with the transition. You have no idea how important it is to have a good, strong science of mind consciousness in a position like that. It really allows Reverend Karen's life to be easier.
Yeah, because I did want to add, Kay is a licensed practitioner, if you don't know that, and so is Cheryl. So what that means is when people call during the day, if somebody's in need, they can pray with you on the phone right then because they bring that consciousness with them. So I wanted you to know that too.
And that's not something that every church has the good fortune to have, so we are blessed in so many ways. So with that, Dining with the Dudes, and when is that? Next weekend. Oh, Mother's Day. They're gonna, not only are we gonna be lovely with hats, we'll be full with good food, because Dining with the Dudes is happening next weekend. All right, so with that, I believe it's time for us to try to just come together, take a deep breath, and enjoy the service and allow yourself to go within.
So just take a deep breath as we go within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
As we just go within and breathe, knowing God is all there is, right here, right now, in this moment, as we settle into our chairs, opening our heart, our mind, and God's word is expressing in, as, and through it. That divine intelligence expressing in all ways as beauty and love and joy and peace and ease and comfort. I declare right here and now that God is expressing through each and every one of us, through Karen's message, through the Bradfords' music. God is expressing always. And I know that deep inside, I am open and receptive to God's word through all the modalities that are around us, because those modalities are expressing God right back to you. So, with a deep gratitude in my heart, with an openness to receive, I release my word with gratitude, and together we say, and so it is. Subjective mind, which is universal, omnipresent, accepts the images of the practitioner's thinking and reflects them in the direction he or she specifies to their client. The practitioner is not trying to send out thought, hold a thought, or suggest a thought. The practitioner is trying to realize the state of perfection of the client. We must be certain that we differentiate between suggestion and real metaphysical healing. In metaphysical healing, we are conscious that we are dealing with a universal principle or law. We are dealing with something that cannot and does not argue back. We are directing it for definite purpose, telling it to do certain things, which it does. This is what occurs when we give a spiritual mind treatment. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Can you hear me all right out there? So we picked out this song. Sorry for the stutter. We picked out this song, and what I'd like is everybody to kind of join in. I think you'll get it after the first time through. Maybe give a little clap along if you could. And it's a simple, great message. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds perched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs, melodies pure and clean, saying, this is my message to you. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
Say don't worry
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
It's Sunday morning at CSL today. We are so blessed to have this center with Reverend Karen, with messages pure and true, saying, this is my message to you.
Don't
Don't
worry
worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Say don't worry,
Don't worry
about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
Don't worry.
Oh, how fun was that? Well done, Kathy Bradford and husband. Oh, that was so fun. That was so fun. This is my message for you. Oh, I'm so sorry I sang. Oh, well. Oh, well. Many of you are accustomed to it. I can't stand a good moment. I really wanted to be a singer, but God didn't give me that gift. But I did learn how to speak, and I got something to say today. And, you know, I was thinking that, first of all, more of the men who helped yesterday are here now. They appeared in the dark. Thank you for being here. All of you mighty hands that came together to pull off a really holy task. And aren't we happy today? Does this room look good or what? We are real happy. This woman is real happy. And you know, it started 12 years ago on Mother's Day. 12 years ago, on Mother's Day, it was my day to come, my weekend to come and candidate at this particular center. And so the church had chosen 4 ministers to interview and consider for hire. And I came on Mother's Day, and oh my goodness, I think there were hats that day. In fact, there might have been a fashion show or something. There was something afterwards. I can't remember what. And I met on Saturday morning, so that one of the requirements is you have to teach a class. And so I came here on that Saturday morning. But before the class, because they want to see whether or not you can teach, right? Before the class, a group of people met me for breakfast. They told me where to meet at Heidi's on Thunderbird, and they took me to breakfast, and then they brought me over here to the sanctuary. And as I recall, I know Nancy Noel was at the breakfast. I don't remember her in this room, but Dean Henson, remember Dean Henson? The Hensons are such a fabulous memory for me in the beginning of this journey for this move to the desert and leading this community. So it's Mother's Day, the day before Mother's Day on that Saturday. We have breakfast. We come over here with Sharon Palafis and Dean Henson, possibly Nancy, and we're in the back of the sanctuary, but it didn't look anything like this. Didn't look anything like this. It was a lovely room, but they had given me a quick tour of the building, a quick tour, because I had to teach a class. Now, if you think about it, I probably was only thinking about what I was about to do. The interview then you speak on Sunday, and then you have the interview after. I had my interview after speaking and after going through all that stuff. So it's an exhausting weekend. Anyhow, I'm standing in the back of this room, and I said to Dean Henson and to Sharon Palafis, I said, "Wow, yeah, it's a huge building. So where's the sanctuary?" And they said, "This is the sanctuary." And can you imagine how embarrassed I was? I kind of wanted the job, and I didn't realize I was standing in the sanctuary because it didn't look like this. It didn't look like a sanctuary. It was beautiful. It was a gorgeous room. I immediately went to war with the carpeting, I have to be honest. I was like not really sure about that gold carpeting and how it was going to hold up with so much traffic on it. And so I planted a seed. They hired me, and I planted a seed. And I believe I planted a seed that day when I didn't know this was the sanctuary. We're going to make this look and feel like a real sanctuary. I later learned that the people that were so generous in the redecorating that gave us that whole beautiful look, that their intention, this is how consciousness changes. Their intention was to make it feel warm and welcoming so that when you came in here, you felt like you were sitting in somebody's living room. And it did feel that way. It was warm and it was welcoming, and it was completely different than this. There were these giant wood pieces that had been decoratively sponged or something here, so it gave some dimension to it. And oh gosh, it was just completely different. And shortly after I hired, there was a wedding, and the bride said, "Can you get rid of those big pieces?" Because she had a plan for how she wanted the whole wedding thing to look. And so the lady that was in charge of getting the rentals and getting this sanctuary transformed says to me, because I'm a brand new hire, right? She says, Reverend Karen, don't worry, we're going to get those back up before Sunday. And I said, please don't. Let's just see what else is possible for this room. Let's just see what's possible. And then little by little, we began to bring in sacred art, and we created our manifesto. That's the global heart statement for our organization. It's our personalized version of that. And somebody had it printed and somebody else mounted it. And we made a prayer wall in the corner, and we created an altar in the front. And gradually, over time, the seed for the new carpeting finally took root and bloomed. So here we are today, and what I'm talking about today is some words of Dr. Holmes, a nestling seed. This was nothing but a nestling seed of possibility in the mind of somebody who wasn't even a part of this community in the beginning. But over time, it became apparent that we were going to have to do something about that old carpeting that was not holding up well. We're going to do a good job, a much better job now. Plus, we have a different consciousness now. And so everything changes. Here's the quote where I took those words, a nestling seed, from Dr. Ernest Holmes in a wonderful book called You Can Change Your Mind. You can change your mind. Isn't it wonderful that we can change our mind and we can advance through the inner growth that shows up then in the outer expression of the way we live our lives? Here are his words. Dr. Holmes said, in the inner sanctuary of our own nature, hidden perhaps from objective gaze, nestles a seed of perfection. That's what we're going to talk about today. That seed of perfection that is nestled away, and it seems to be out of our gaze. However, it never goes away. It never grows smaller. It is always that perfection. It's the very reason we can experience an illness and then recover from that illness, or experience a loss and heal after the grief of that loss. So there is something in us, in every one of us, that is untouched by the circumstances that we live through, but certainly influenced by. And I believe that all of the circumstances and conditions that we live through come as an opportunity for us to sort of re-examine what we believe and redecide on the direction that we're heading, and think again about those things that we desire to, the seeds we desire, the seeds of possibility we desire to plant in our own experience of living. Something always remains perfect and untouched by any negativity in the world. And it's within us, and we can always go back to touching and experiencing that perfection and expressing it again and again. I like that term, inner sanctuary. When he says the inner sanctuary of your own mind, it reminds me that what goes on in my mind is solely mine. You know, I get to have I'm participating in it. I don't always have control of it because I'm not always conscious. That's why he says, perhaps that perfection is hidden. Perhaps that's a big maybe, right? It might be that it's hidden from your objective gaze, what you are consciously aware of, but it's only hidden for periods of time. I mean, it's mostly hidden. Let's face it, we live in physical bodies on a physical planet, the Earth. And she demands our attention, so we can't always be focused on the spiritual matters, but the spiritual truths never desert us. Always that seed of possibility nestling within. So when I looked in the glossary in the back of the Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Ernest Holmes defined a whole bunch of terms so that we would know what he's talking about when he's writing these passages in that book. And so I looked up objective thought, and it defines objective thought as the conscious side of thinking, right? That's when we're awake or aware, we're conscious, we're intentional. And he goes on to say the objective mind is the conscious mind. So when he's talking about gazing in that objective way, he's talking about seeing the reality with the capital R, seeing the deeper truths that you could skim over and miss in a day or in a week if you don't pay attention and set your mind to notice those incredible things. Our entire life's journey is like, I kept thinking, it's like there's that pure potentiality, the nestling seed, the pure potentiality within us that's just waiting to be discovered, to be unearthed, or to be revealed in terms of the way we express the situations and our choices in our very own lives. I like that idea that it's there and it's just sort of waiting. And last week we focused on, I think this is a good complement to what we talked about last week, because last week we talked about firing up that inner conviction, because the stronger the belief is, the more you feel it, the easier and more likely it is to demonstrate in physical form where you can recognize it, touch it, see it, use it, change your mind, as we said in the beginning, the name of that book. So this week, we're not talking about the activity, we're talking about the thing. We're talking about the seed as a thing of potential that is in its yet-to-be form. It hasn't come into form yet. So it's a pure possibility, and there is I love this part of metaphysical teachings, and I love reading Judge Thomas Troward and how he influenced Dr. Ernest Holmes in giving us sort of the scientific side of spirituality. But they're speaking about this, that nestling seed, that place of perfection that is untouched by anything out here. They're talking about it with certainty. In the same way that we need our lungs to breathe for us, or we wouldn't be able to sustain life in our bodies without it. We need our hearts to pump and to move our blood through our body, that we need to have a circulation system in multiple ways in order to just sustain life. And so it is that definite that we also need that seed of potential. And I love thinking of it as nestling sort of close and snug right within us, right inside of us. I want to talk for a minute about the potential and the power of a single seed. So in your imagination, pull up a seed. What kind of seeds? Raise your hand if you want to tell me what kind of seed you saw, if you know what kind of seed it was. Corn? You saw corn kernel. Good. What else? Lynn? A flower seed. An avocado, a big old pit. So you can see you see how uniquely we imagine different things from each other? Isn't that fabulous? I want to talk about the power in all of those seeds. Most of us have taken toothpicks, maybe when we were kids, but in an avocado seed and put it in some water and seen how it wants to root and grow and a shoot comes out of it over time. We understand that process. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the creation of 1,000 forests begins with a single acorn. Is that, these are facts that we don't argue. We understand that this is how life works. And so one time, also when I was fairly new here, I had a leadership retreat, and we were talking about how many seeds are in an apple, and I had this idea, and I can't remember if it was just practitioners. Sarah, were you there that day? The apple day? Oh, you would remember the apple. Yeah? It was the whole leadership team, okay. So I paired everybody off, and I gave each table an apple, and I gave them a knife, and a paring knife, and I said, okay, your job is, you got 10 minutes, you're gonna count how many apples, seeds you can find in that apple. John Kruger, were you there that day? So, okay, if nobody remembers, apparently it wasn't as interesting to them as it was to me. Sue remembers. Anybody else remember? Dana's raising her hand. Anybody else? One more. I need one more. Come on, give me one more. Somebody lie. Just raise your hand. I'll be happy. Oh, perfect. Oh, okay, there you are. All right, so they counted the seeds, and you know what they found? True to what was expected, there are 5 to 7 seeds in every apple. It's an average. It's not exact. It's not an exact science, but there's an average 5 to 7 seeds in every apple. But then here's what we said after that. We realized that it is easy to count the seeds in the apple, but you could never count the apples in a single seed. Oh, good. Phew, connect the dot. Thank you. That's great. I'm much happier now. So no one would argue that. You didn't even have to be there that day, and you know that that's true. One apple has the potential to make several trees, and those trees, we don't even know how many trees they might make. And then when you look at how many apples come in season after season after season, that is a lot of creation. So I'm hoping the message today is going to help us return to not take that for granted, to think of the seed, whatever you saw in your imagination when I asked you to see a seed, to realize how miraculous the intelligence in that seed, whether it's a flower or a vegetable or anything. There's just such a miraculous power of intelligence within every seed. And that seed of perfection for our future possibilities nestles snugly within us as well. I love reminding myself to not judge things by appearances because, it's, we do it all the time. We always walk into a situation and think we see a certain thing, and then that's all that's on our mind. And what we know is that there's more going on hidden from our objective gaze. There's more going on. Jesus, the great teacher, really gave us that idea. Look beyond just the appearance and don't ask look at the way you ask questions, he says to the disciples. You're asking the wrong question. Don't ask why the baby's blind. Ask why the miracle can happen that can change that. So let's focus on the miraculous nature of life so that we, as Ernest Holmes so beautifully says, so that we can learn to see as God must see with perfect vision. We won't have perfect vision all the time, right? Sometimes, I have great spiritual clarity, and then there are days like yesterday where I feel a little confused by the chaos and the commotion and the questions and the tasks in front of us, and looking at how are we going to get this day through the seeming chaos, the appearance of chaos. How can we then get it to look like this? And we did that because we all had a vision, and a bunch of our helpers had pictures in their phones of how we had to recreate it to put it back together. And let's thank everybody for working so hard. And many people helped us break down on the Sunday before. I loved that it was like just a few of us were moving, and then suddenly, I don't think there was anybody in the social hall. After a while, everybody was grabbing stuff and moving it around, and yesterday was as beautiful as that. People stayed, Colleen stayed so late. She started housekeeping and dusting and in other areas, and Kathy Rose was mopping floors and vacuuming. And it's inspiring, it's invigorating to all of us to have that freshness. So in many ways, I feel like this message today about seeing as God must see and knowing and looking for that hidden truth that's at the core of everything. In many ways, it's like we're going to the eye doctor today to get our vision corrected, right? And that's your take-home assignment. Have your vision corrected, have a little more perfection, have a willingness in your heart and in your thinking to have that perfection revealed to you, because God sees the future in every seed, in every kernel, right? And we humans might be tempted to look first at the imperfections, and then it's a little tricky to get down to what's possible. But that's just a part of life. That is just the way, if I'm having a bad day, everything in my home looks tagged and worn, and I'm pickier on those days. So we just noticed that. The creative energy that I call God, Spirit itself, as a creative intelligence, is constant. And Spirit is unchanging. It is only the things in form that age and decay or need repair. But in the mind of God, there's a gorgeous perfection that's always trying to reveal itself. That intelligence that's sort of waiting for us to discover it, that wisdom in the seed, in every seed, is waiting for, I always think God's timing is not our timing. We say that, but man, we can be really impatient when we think something should happen now and look exactly like this. We start outlining for God, that's when we get in trouble. But in nature, if you observe a seed in nature, or the way life grows and proliferates itself, in nature, what we see is that the proper season will bring the most potential for the best growth, right? It's like, where the snow is melting, life has been dormant, and now a combination of things in the environment, the how long the sun is out, how the changes come with the seasons, all of those things are creating a better potential for that new spring growth. So when everything is just right, when things come together, when the elements work all together, voila, finally the new carpeting is here. Realize we're not just talking, this is a metaphor. We're not talking about gardening. We're talking about some basic truths in life that we can learn through gardening. So we need soil. This is what we teach here in this spiritual philosophy. We have a symbol to help us illustrate it for you. We need soil. The plant needs the proper elements in the environment it needs water and it needs sunshine. And so what happens is this, we call this soil. Ernest Holmes, and I'm not sure if he got it from Troward, but Ernest Holmes called the soil the holy womb of nature. So, that's the holy womb of nature is where everything is created from. And that's a creative medium. That soil has no opinion about what kind of seeds you plant in it. And thus we have our lives look the way our lives look. But then the rain comes. And you know what? I think the water certainly is a vital, necessary force for all of us. But the water, I think that when the seed's in the ground and the seed's in the dark, realize it's dark, right? That the water then softens that tough husk on the outside of the shell so that some roots can start growing downward, and it can anchor that little plant so that eventually a shoot will come up and break through the earth, and now the sunshine is like calling that little plant to grow toward it. So there's this great energetic exchange where all the elements come together in a proper season with the most potential for success, and life happens. But think about it. Things stay dormant until all those distinct little pieces come together to influence that cracking of the shell and the rooting and the growing and the harvest eventually. I also thought of some of the great redwood trees in Northern California and beyond. There are pine cones that come from those trees that have a seed for future trees within them. And some species of pine trees that seed cannot get set loose to grow except by fire. That's why they live for hundreds of years, right? And then that seed is waiting for hundreds of years, and what looks devastating is actually the life force that will renew that forest by allowing that to burst open and life to begin again. So I believe that there's something important here for us to consider in the way we have judgment on appearances of things that we see as destructive, and in some cases our life only takes certain turns and we only move ahead through those things that look like a breaking apart. Even the ceasing of breath in the human body, we understand spiritually as the only way the soul can evolve. You know, sometimes we have to let go of the covering. So I would add to that when you're holding seeds, they don't last forever. They will eventually, given enough time, they will shrivel up and they're no longer dormant, but they cease to have life in them. So we want to be choosy that we don't hoard things for some future possibility where there's something within us that desires to express, and we want to pay attention to those things, that there's a way we participate in this process. We are co-creators in our own life. So there's overflowing potential in every seed, like the apple seed. I read once that if all when a fish lays eggs, it lays a lot of eggs. I just rewatched every time I go to the beach, I come home and I rewatch My Octopus Teacher. Nancy and me find that a favorite movie, right? And I don't even know how many times I've watched it, but if I've been at the sea, I like that movie because it shows me what was going on underneath the surface of the ocean. So I went home, I watched that last week, and he said do you know that the octopus that he studied and that loved him, they only live a year. Their lifespan is 1 year. I didn't know that. But when they mate, they lay millions of eggs. And so that's what fish do. Fish lay a whole bunch. You all saw the movie Nemo. I think I did a show of hands on that once. They lay a lot of eggs, but very few of those little baby fish will grow into maturity. And in fact, in some place, I want to say it's Ernest Holmes where I read this, he made some strange comment that if all those eggs hatched and became fish in the sea, there wouldn't be enough room. There'd be no sea. So it helps us to put it into perspective, to not... the man, Craig Foster, that narrated the movie My Octopus Teacher, said that, it's so sad to imagine that only a few of those octopus eggs will grow into being an actual octopus and carry on the future. But it is a part of life. It was sad for him when she died after a year of courting her. I think it was just under a year that he had created this relationship with a real living octopus, and he would dive, what do you call it, free diving? He did not take oxygen down there, but he was quite a good diver, I guess. So there's that way that there's an abundance of potential and possibility, and in our own lives, we got to put some seeds in the soil, into the holy womb of nature, and imagine the good that we would like to express in our own living, and you have to do that not so you can have more things. We have to do that because if we don't spend time imagining the good we want, we then are entertaining thoughts of what we don't want. And remember, this soil is impartial. It doesn't care what seeds you plant. So we want to be very conscious. We want to have that objective gaze, that conscious, intentional choice of the seeds we're planting in our life. Because sometimes we get... attached to a dream? You know, do you have things on your bucket list? Isn't it fun to scratch big dreams off your bucket list, to know you accomplished something that was really only in your imagination? But we planted a seed, right? I planted a seed for carpeting, and it took a little while, but here it is. Sometimes it may seem like our dreams don't come true. You know, I could have thought, well, we got air conditioning and we painted the outside. We painted the sanctuary. You know, that maybe that's enough for my watch. You know, I've been here 12 years, almost 12 years. Maybe that's enough. But no, we moved ahead and we did something that was worth having. I'm so full today. I'm so happy and satisfied today because this room looks so beautiful. And so it's easy, sometimes it's tempting to think that some dreams don't get answered. And I would say to you, it's not because they couldn't. It's not because they couldn't. I think a number of things happen. I think we change our mind. Sometimes what I used to have on my bucket list, some of that stuff doesn't appeal to me at all anymore. You know, and I have accomplished some great things. I made it up in a balloon, but I never did a ropes course. And now I'm thinking, I'm not so sure I want to do a ropes course. I wanted my own Harley. Do you know that my husband, Hugh, our secret plan that I only told my most intimate friends because I didn't want the board of trustees to know. But our plan was that he was going to ride me on the motorcycle through those double doors and into this sanctuary on the last day of the gold carpet. That was a dream we had. So you know, you not everything comes to fruition, but it doesn't lessen at all how thrilling it is to have the new carpeting in here. But wouldn't that have been fun? Would have scared some people, I think, because it was a really loud Harley, but it was really fun. It would have been really fun. And I would have dressed for it too. I would have. I was trying to think of a proper biker response. There are none. None that went through my mind anyhow. So I just wanted to say that be careful that you don't have judge on that appearance either. Move on quickly. Right? Or take your time. If it's something deep like grieving, take your time and do that well. But move on. We want to know that eventually we can move on and step into a greater environment. I had this lesson that I learned from watching my in-laws. I had this beautiful mother-in-law who was 6 feet tall and was just gorgeous. Now you know why my husband was 6'5". He had a tall mom. And they had, my father-in-law always worked 2 jobs. They lived a humble life, but they were extraordinarily wealthy in every other way. And my mother-in-law's bucket list dream was to go to Hawaii. And so on their 50th wedding anniversary, she wanted a formal church wedding because they had eloped. And they were neighbors, and he was a good humor man. And they didn't tell their parents for 3 months. They went back to their homes every night and slept in their own beds. And after 3 months, they got the courage to tell their parents they eloped. They were very proper, very proper people. But my mother-in-law always wanted to go to Hawaii. So when we had this big wedding for them, and they had so many friends, they were really well loved, as was my husband. And I said I was in charge of the Hawaii. We had a money tree that we called the Hawaii tree, and it was in the 1980s, and we collected over $2,000, which was plenty of money to get you to Hawaii. And after they had a marriage that lasted 64 years, I think. And so Mom passed first, and then Pop passed shortly after her. And when we were closing down their home, we found the envelope that still said Hawaii with the $2,000 in it. So they never went, right? But you know, I felt so sad when we knew they never went, but I felt so sad because for years I thought, Oh, she must have regretted that they could have gone at any time. But I don't think that's now that I look back at it, I don't think that's what happened at all. I think that she got such pleasure out of having that potential to go to Hawaii in her underwear drawer. That it meant so much to her. It gave her great joy. And I believe that she satisfied the yearning for what was once a trip in some ways that were far more magnificent than any single vacation to Hawaii would have been to her. Because in her 60s, she became an artist, and oil painting was her medium, and she was exquisite at painting. If you've been to my house, you've seen many of her paintings, and all the ones of my children are when she was learning to paint. But she began to find her own style, and she played with the light and the color and the textures, and she loved being an artist, and it suited her so much that what I realize is she satisfied those yearnings in a way where she could have beauty around her at all times, and that she could participate in creating more beauty in her life and in the lives of others. She actually had a contract with an interior designer at the end of her life. She and a couple of her girlfriends had a contract to produce so many paintings every month that went in model homes. And a few years back, I was sitting here in my office, and I got a phone call from an email, I don't remember, from a random person that wanted to know if she was famous, that he had inherited through somebody when they were closing, that he had a Shirley Rice original, and he called me to see if I could help him know how valuable it was. And I even said to him, if you don't want it, I'll pay for shipping, but I have no idea. I have no way of knowing if it has any worth. It means something to this family, even though there are thousands of her paintings all around. So I'm learning not to have a judgment, and I appreciate that there are other ways to counterbalance those yearnings. It doesn't mean doing without. I need you to hear that very clearly. I'm not saying doing without, but I think that I had a judgment that she had missed something important in her life. And you know what it did for me and my husband? We didn't miss anything after that. We did whatever was important to us. We made that a priority. And like many of you, those desires will never diminish. There'll always be something else, and sometimes they are reprioritized. In the gospel, the Gnostic scriptures, the Gospel of Thomas, I found this quote: "Recognize what is before your eyes, and then what is hidden will be revealed to you." Right? Recognize what is right in front of you, and then that which is hidden from that objective gaze, then that will be revealed to you then. So we have this gorgeous sanctuary that demonstrates beauty, and it always had a sacredness about it. It didn't seem to matter how it looked, right? And the reason we could call on this sacredness is if the prayers spoken in this room have permeated these walls and the floor and the ceiling, and no amount of changing the carpeting can interfere with that. The reason that's so profound, they tell us, the experts say, that it's because we bring our intention to have an experience of the sacred in this sanctuary. And that's why we call it a sanctuary. We're not all that churchy, but we call this our sanctuary because we come with the intention of having that sacred experience, because that's all that really matters, is the experience. So I leave you this morning with just a couple of ideas, and one is that when the seed is planted, once we fully plant and affirm and know and expect that it will come into fruition, when the seed is planted, then something's going to happen. So be choosy what you are thinking, what seeds you are planting, what appearances you wrap your emotion around. Be choosy there. Because in God, there is no time, right? In the mind of God, this was done the very first time I went, whew, I sure would like to see new carpet in there, planted the seed. In the mind of God, it's done. But it is up to us as individuals to keep the vision fresh. We could change our mind. We could go in a different direction. We could have done, we could have went, well, let's make the sanctuary over there and let's change the kitchen. We could do anything because we can do anything because it is infinite in possibility, this life that we live in. And I also wanted to say the seed has to be planted and then it's going to grow, but the seed is going to remain true to its nature. So even as we know the soil, the creative medium, the creative womb of nature, it receives every seed, we are impacting what's happening by the thoughts that we are adding to what's going to happen from that. Right? So keep your vision fresh. And don't be looking and second guessing. Holmes always says, it's not growing. It's not growing. I planted the seed. It's not growing. It's not growing. And then what do? We go and we dig it up and we damage all the growth that's already been rooting and beginning to express as something real in life. So watch your own doubts, right? Don't be thinking you're going to check to see if the seed's okay. The seed needs to be in the dark so the magic can happen. And finally, I would just remind you, storms come and storms go, right? I think that a beautiful example of a global storm as we experienced in the pandemic, the beautiful example is we clean things up around here. And that's what you do after a storm. Think about it. First, you got to go through the rubble. Think of all the people in the South that are going through the rubble to see what can be reclaimed. And that's what we did here. We went crazy cleaning. We had such a good time. And we worked really hard because we could. We could tear things apart because every Sunday you only saw this much. And this room would be, that we had ladders and painting and, we did so much work during that time, reclaiming what we could. And then in the aftermath, you also have to release what's been lost. Life changes, right? I don't need 12 pairs of men's shoes under the bed anymore, right? I can release that, and that will then be a part of healing. So we reclaim, go through the rubble, reclaim what you can, release what doesn't serve you anymore, and then the best part, the whole point of this morning's conversation is we then reimagine what's possible in the days ahead. Lao Tzu, who is credited with bringing the sagey wisdom from the Tao, Lao Tzu, we have these words that are recorded as his words. To see things in the seed, that is genius. And that's what I wanted to say today. So just get comfortable where you're seated. Just get really comfortable right where you are. And imagine in your mind that little seeds have been sprinkled all about this room. And know that in every single seed, there is this potential, this power, something more that desires to be expressed in form, in our awareness, in this hidden objective gaze, that there is possibility and potential. And we now stand in this posture, this position, this prayerful pose of feeding these seeds and keeping the ground fertile and watering and making sure there's light. Because right where we are, God is. Right here in this room, wherever you are seated at this moment, right here is the presence of Spirit itself, the infinite intelligence of all the universe. And therefore, we can feel the love of God in this room. I feel the love of God within me, and I know that it is the activity of life. That every quickening is evidence of an inner conviction, and that it is in our belief that we call forward truth. So when we believe it, we can see it. It's not the other way around. It is when we believe in the possibility of those nestling seeds, those future potentials for all of life. When we believe there is something dynamic that activates the elements of life so that the full expression can be experienced. I feel that love of God, that movement of life within me, and I simply know that it is that yearning for life to be present on this planet, to be expressing, to be gifting our circumstances and our conditions with the grace of God, the blessings of the heavens. And we open ourselves to be vessels, to receive that good. For it is the Father's good pleasure. The givingness of God. That's the energy that spreads the grace everywhere, that allows for our bodies to function in excellence. And so in any way where there is any desire for healing from something that seems to physically ail us, I call on the full blessings of that intelligence that resides within each individual body, in every cell of our being, to tap into that perfection, that nestling seed, that possibility that is hungry to experience the light, to sink roots in truth, and to allow us to be creative and for life to be orderly, and for us to have that experience of joy. And so we call forward perfect health. We call forward the perfect flow in our finances. We call forward those seeds we have planted to have gratifying and gorgeous, healthy relationships with each other, so that it is the instinct of life to heal, to reveal a greater level of truth in anything that may have been before this moment seemingly out of order. And so we accept this good. We accept this perfect order. We accept this support from the universe, knowing that it is on our side, that life is for us. And so I say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, Infinite Spirit, for all of this clarity of vision that we stand in truth upon today. And I release these words with deep, deep gratitude. I release them into the law, knowing it is done. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Thank you, Bradfords, as always. And I was just telling Karen, I was thinking she has a thing for seeds because at another leadership retreat, she gave us 3 seeds, a seed for corn, a seed for a squash, and a seed for beans, because the 3 of them combined together allow that corn plant to grow strong and tall. Native American tradition that that when they plant corn, they plant squash and beans with it. So, Three Sisters Garden, absolutely. Actually, yeah. So that's what I was thinking. That's why when she said, "What seed is yours?" I said, "Corn." Anyway, enough. And what? You like squash? All right. Anyway, enough. So it is now time for our giving and receiving. We have boxes for your gift. They're on the way into Papke Hall, one in the back of the room, one out in home space. So please be sure to drop off your contribution, and we will use our giving affirmation. So if you just hold your hand over your heart and allow yourself to know that the gift that you're giving is blessed, and repeat with me, I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And so it is. And I will tell you that is, we have a slight twist on this blessing that not all centers have. It's used by a lot of places, but we say, we give thanks for all that we are first, because that's the starting point. Who we are is that divine reflection. So I've always loved that because we have that extra little piece. And I think that's probably it. Take it away.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Sing that. Oh, it feels so good to be
Thank you, Bradford. I'll tell you, I was listening to that song at home the other day, and my husband went, "That's the Bradford song, isn't it?" I said, "Why, yes, it is." So, all right, so if you'll repeat after me, I consciously choose the seeds I plant, knowing that they always turn into my desires. Knowing that they always turn into my desires. Thank you, God, and so it is.